Sit around fishing?
It's Glenn. And this round we're going to talk about some lessons learned about fishing fishing Galveston, a recent trip that we took just early last week. Bottom line, stay tuned. We've got some lessons learned from when we fish Surfside Jetties, the Galveston Fishing Pier, as well as the 61st Street Fishing Pier.
Today, 'cause he was telling everyone in town of the love that he just found and the reasoning of his latest claim. He talked and talked, and I heard him say that she had the longest, blackest hair, the prettiest green eyes anywhere, and the reasoning of his latest claim.
Thanks for joining us today, City of Island Fishing, and bringing you fishing videos, fishing related things, as well as hopefully the intent being to watch us fish, see how we make adjustments to current season, current conditions, and then hopefully y'all can take away from it and maybe learn what we learned, or maybe learn what we shouldn't have done. But bottom line, see how we adjust and hopefully catch a fish or two. That said, do stick around to the end of this video for a bonus, some bonus footage, bonus info that may be of interest for some thinking about fishing piers. Okay, so let's talk about some lessons learned. We broke it up into three categories: getting there, fishing, and ouch. Getting there, just to give you some lessons learned this round and what worked for us. Fishing, what worked for us, lessons learned wise on the piers, and then ouch, what we wish we did learn sooner than later. Okay, so let's talk about getting there. Lesson learned, go during non-peak hours, non-peak days. When we say non-peak days, the weekends in the summer tend to be very busy and very expensive in the Galveston area. And so what we decided was we had the opportunity to go down there on Saturday. Instead of going to Galveston, we went further south to the Surfside Jetties, stayed at Clute, which is close to Freeport, and Surfside. Stayed at a motel there and got a pretty good rate. I think it was like $75 at a Motel 6, and we were able to fish that jetty. It was pretty busy on that jetty, but not as busy as we normally see on some of the piers up in Galveston. And so non-peak hours, non-peak days, do definitely keep that in mind from a lessons learned standpoint. Headed our way from Surfside to Galveston. I think it was like Sunday. And there we learned that when you take the coastal highway going up there, there's a $2 toll at the San Luis Pass. Didn't know that, so have $2 handy for you when you get there. And do heed the sign to put the $2 under the rock so the wind doesn't blow it away. But that said, it did make it much easier to head up from Surfside to Galveston. I think it was like a 45-minute trip versus having to go back up through Houston and then down to Galveston and taking that route and have to deal with some of the congestion there. Non-rush hour arrival. So when we went from Allen, we left in time so that we wouldn't arrive during the rush hour time. We did see one particular stretch where it was stop and go because there was some blockage or road closure, and we missed it. And why did we miss it? Because we did the non-rush hour arrival, as well as another thing that we kept in mind was Google Maps. Google Maps as well as Waze. That app on your phone definitely helped us this round, being able to keep up with the congestion as well as keeping up with traffic conditions as well as speed traps and being able to see what the current speed limit was versus what speed we were doing. And so lessons learned, we definitely have that handy when we're making these road trips to the coast. From a fishing standpoint, lesson learned was prepare for the changing weather and changing conditions. So it rained on us, it didn't rain on us, it got really windy on us, it calmed down on us. Bottom line, we were prepared we learned to be prepared for those changes. Live shrimp flag. So we'll see the live shrimp flag by some of the bait shops that were open in the area. Some had them, some didn't. We wanted live shrimp to do some fishing for some sand trout, speckled trout over there at Surfside Jetty, and what we saw was you can go to one location and size does matter when it comes to live shrimp and fishing for those speckled trout and sand trout, because what we ended up doing was we went to one location. It had a mix of a pint of shrimp with some small ones, 2 inches or so, do some medium ones, 3 to 4. That tended to get the bigger fish, and then we had some jumbos mixed in there. So bottom line, just because you have a live shrimp flag doesn't mean it's the live shrimp you want. A pint was all we needed for what we were doing on that first night fishing Surfside Jetty. What would have been nicer is to have more of those medium-sized ones, those little guys. So do keep that in mind. Fresh squid makes a difference. There's the frozen one that's turning pink on you, as well as the aged one that's turning pink on you, and then there's that really fresh one, or that's been newly frozen fresh, where it's got that whitish opaqueness still to it. Those worked a lot better than the non-fresh squid. So lesson learned there, as we were picking up both. We should have just been going with the more fresh one. Hook size will vary. We went with size 4 as well as all the way up to size 2/0 Aberdeen hooks we were using for catching our bait. And we had a variety of hooks depending on what was going to hook or what was biting for those little bait fish. Additionally, we had circle hooks, 5/0 all the way up to 9/0 and bigger. We were adjusting there based on what fish were biting. Ended up using more of the smaller 5/0 hooks than the normal ones. I think we normally were using 7/0 in past trips. So hook size vary. It was a good thing we had a number to pick from, and being able to focus to the pattern to what the fish were biting on, getting some good hook sets there. Pure net. Gotta have a pure net. Although we didn't have to use it this round. Every time we don't bring it, we tend to get big fish. Every time we do bring it, we don't. Well, regardless, we brought it. And we did see some other folks catching some nice size one that needed a pure net. It was good to know that we had our pure net with us in case we did get that bruise. Other thing is a wagon. Have a wagon. That made a big difference. We had the collapsible wagon. We're in a compact car. We were able to just collapse it down, put it right into the back of the trunk, unfold it, get it all set up, and bring everything we needed. Instead of having to carry it and lug it around like we had previously done from where we parked all the way up the pier, or to the pier check-in, all the way up the pier in the case of Galveston Fishing Pier being longer, made a difference for us. Being able to pack up and go, as well as adjust to where we wanted to fish on the pier pretty much at a moment's notice, since everything was readily movable, transportable. Work the entire pier. Well, because we had that wagon, we tended to work the entire pier more. In past trips, we'll just kind of sit in one spot, and then we'll maybe move to another, and then that's pretty much it. In this case, we were able to go up and down the pier. What also helped us is because we were a non-peak hour and non-peak day, pretty much the pier was not crowded. So we could move up and down it as we wish without having to crowd out others or be crowded out by others, and then that wagon helped us getting up and down the pier as well. Other thing, fishing wise, wire leaders. We use wire leaders for the most part, and even though actually we did have a cutoff when we were using a mono leader on one particular fish, we went to the wire leaders and stayed with it consistently. Only I think more lesson learned on this one is we need to go with a longer leader. I think we were using 2 to 3 foot leaders. We had one roll on us and it cut the line. Probably a longer leader would have helped there as well. So lesson learned, have wire leaders, longer wire leaders, have maybe vary like we did the hooks, do the same thing with the wire leaders. Okay, from an ouch standpoint, lesson learned, ouch, secure your gear. Ended up losing 2, although cheap, $1 a piece, bait knives. We ended up losing 2 of them. And one we really liked because it kept a really good sharp edge. Ended up happening was we're cutting some bait and inadvertently knocked it into the water. Luckily, it was only $1. Luckily, we were able to replace it fairly quickly because the pier sells them pretty cheap. I think it's $1 plus tax, $1.08. But ouch, would have been nice to have that really sharp one that we still like. So secure your gear. Protect your phone from rain as well as the oopses. And when we say rain, we had it in a waterproof bag. No problem there. Waterproof bag doesn't protect you from the oops. In this case, someone inadvertently dropped something heavy enough to nick the phone screen. Luckily, we did have a phone screen, so it only nicked the phone screen instead of damaging the phone. But do protect your phone. Clothing-wise, from an ouch standpoint, our hat. Almost lost our hat. Oops. Wind was really the key there. It was really windy, and almost lost our hat. But clothing-wise, do have protection for sun, do have protection for rain. So we had clothing that could cover all the way up to our arms, as well as the lightweight Columbia gear that you see that's very, very vented, so you didn't sweat. Okay, so recapping the lessons learned, getting there. From a getting there standpoint, non-peak days for your hotel stay so that you can stay away from the crowds. Additionally, that San Luis toll, $2, keep it under the rock for the sign. Keep that aware when you're going up from Surfside up to Galveston, you got that toll. Non-rush hour arrival, so time when you arrive into the area that you're missing that congestion, that rush hour traffic, so you're not stuck there instead of fishing. And then keep Google Maps or Waze handy so you can get that speed limit verification, as well as check traffic conditions, and then also keep aware of some of those speed traps that are out there. From a fishing standpoint, prepare for changing weather, changing water or surf conditions. Live shrimp, size does matter. Be able to pick what you want in case you're trying to go for some nice bigger size speckled trout and sand trout. And then fresh squid, pink versus white, go with that white, fresh, opaque look. Hook size, be prepared to adjust hook sizes, but have those different hook sizes so you're not stuck or at the whim of what's available on the pier or the bait shops. Have that pier net handy. That definitely makes a difference when it comes to landing fish, as well as that wagon, big difference for us. Being able to move and transport our gear and move up and down the pier. And then also work that entire pier. So don't just stay in one or two spots. See where they are, make the adjustment, and go from there. Have wire leaders, longer wire leaders, in case they roll on you and cut for those larger fish, and in case sharks. Have that handy. And then from an ouch standpoint, secure your gear. We lost those two knives. Do secure them. Protect your phone. Had it protected for rain, but a little ouch there, or oops when it came to something nicking the phone screen, but luckily we had that phone screen so we didn't damage our phone. And then having the appropriate clothing, sun, wind, rain, be prepared. So next time, what will we do? We'll definitely bring a wagon. We'll probably might do some surf fishing this next time because we saw some really nice conditions coming up from Surfside up to Galveston. That beach area reminded us of Port A, Padre Island. It looked like some very good fishing conditions or fishing to happen in those in that surf. And then it was windy. We're going to secure our hat. Not going to not secure our hat. We're going to make sure that we don't lose it because we definitely like that hat. All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us and listening to our lessons learned. Hopefully it was helpful for you.
This girl was in my arms and swore to me she'd be mine eternally. And Marie's her name, loving lady's flame. Yeah, Marie's her name, loving lady's flame. Yeah, Marie's her name, loving lady's flame. Yeah, Marie's her name.
Okay, bonus info. Thanks for staying with us for so long on this video. What we're going to talk about from a bonus standpoint is working the pier. So we mentioned about working the entire pier. We'll go into more detail on working the pier. First thing we'll do, check the weather conditions. Rain, wind, sun. It's going to tell us something, so we will make some adjustments based on that alone. Looking at water conditions, surf, the swell, the clarity of the water will make a difference. In this case, we were dealing with 3 to 4 foot swells, a lot of breaking waves, sandy water. So we made some adjustment there. In this case, we tended to fish more bait than lures and fish more on bottom instead of on the surface. Tides, keep aware of tides, the movement and whatnot. Is key. High tide, low tide, doesn't matter really. Well, it probably does for some, but for us, we look for movement, water movement. Higher tide, low tide, we're looking for that water movement, and so water moves, fish moves. Bait fish moves, bigger fish moves. And so that's what we're looking for. Slack tide, we kind of tend to see a slowdown there. So, or slack water, we'll tend to see a slowdown there. And so we will be prepared to wait it out until the next tide comes through, or at least the next water movement comes through. Also, makes a difference in where you initially set up. So higher tide, you'll have more of the pier to work. Lower tide, well, you'll have to go a little bit further out because the water is going to be further out from that pier. So the next thing is we've gotten all these in account. What's the first thing we're going to do, or what's first to start fishing? Well, we're going to look for fish activity. Why not fish a spot where we see fish already? And so that's what we did on one pier. We saw some fish activity, went for it. We saw some mullet there, something feeding, and well, it turned out to be hardheads. But at least we fished it and got to see what was there and made some adjustments and went ahead and fished like normal after that. When we say like normal, worked the entire pier. We started working from, as we got to the water edge, looking for guts and holes that break between sandbars, and started working those different areas. As we worked our way up the pier and started getting more bites or consistent bites, we would just fish that area until that bite moved on, and then make the adjustment going further out along the pier as well. So the key there, locate those guts and holes. I think there's a lot of video online on YouTube explaining how to find them in those different conditions, but we kind of keep it simple. We see the waves breaking, and then the waves die out, and then they start breaking again or start building up again. That kind of tells us that in between there's a gut or a hole that is an opportunity just to fish, and we go from there. From a how we fish that particular gut or hole or area, we'll typically fish bottom, surface, as well as lures until we find a pattern. We'll fish on the bottom with a dropper rig. We'll fish on the top, be it with surface lures, popping rigs, floats, and kind of work that upper column, water column. And then once we start seeing a bite or a pattern where they're biting more consistently, then we'll shift over to that, be it on bottom, be it on top, or lures in particular. So in this case, because of the water conditions and the clarity, we tended to use bait instead of lures, and it seemed to work for us. So keep that in mind. But again, as soon as we had a lure starting to hit, we would definitely shift to it. In this case, we didn't have a lure hitting. Instead, we had a particular bait hitting. So that said, adjust as needed, find the pattern, and then be prepared to change and adjust because that pattern changes well. So going into a little bit more detail as we worked the pier, in the case of Surfside Jetty, what we noticed there, it was almost like dry fly fishing a river because of the conditions at that time, the way the wind and the waves and the current was going. It seemed like the waves were coming at a more acute angle, almost paralleling the pier and hitting the beach, or correction, paralleling the jetty and then hitting the beach. And so what we did was cast sort of up jetty or up river, let our floating rig go down river or down the jetty and look for any strikes, indication of a hit, just like we were dry fly fishing or working at a strike indicator under a strike indicator, a fishing fly under a strike indicator while we're working a river when we're fly fishing. So that helped us at Surfside Jetty. Ended up getting mainly some sand trout there, no speckled trouts. I think there was a speckled trout or two, but bottom line, it was all on the surface. We did see someone catch a nice sized black drum. Not sure what they use, but there were some fish there as well. So Surfside Jetty, like fly fishing a river, upstream, downstream, up jetty, down jetty. Acute angle is what was the waves hitting the particular jetty in this case. Galveston Fishing Pier, find the gut, find the hole, and then it was find the preferred bait. So once we found the gut, found the hole, found where they're hitting, the preferred bait turned out to be shrimp on these bonnet heads. It was mainly hard heads and bonnet heads, and I think there was a black tip mixed in. But what was kind of weird was we weren't getting any bait fish. No whiting, no croaker, no little perch, pinfish, grunts, none of that. We did notice from pattern standpoint was if you used squid or mullet, you were getting hard heads. If you used shrimp, you tended to get more, you would get a hard head or two, but you tended to get more bonnet heads. So ended up using more shrimp for those bonnet heads. So a 61st Street fishing pier, what we adjusted to when we were fishing that one, it's a short pier, so you can work the entire pier fairly quickly. The key there was when we showed up, we had to wait for the rain to pass, and then later on when we showed up after the rain passed, we noticed 3 to 4 foot swells, a lot of wind, a lot of waves breaking, and what it told us is we needed some heavy weights, be it some heavy spider weights. I think we were using a 6-ounce spider weight in one case, and then a 3-ounce like Sputnik satellite spider weight. I think that was a 3-ouncer that we were using. It was holding fast, but every once in a while it would break off or break sand and move along closer to the beach. Bottom line, it was get the right weight and then the preferred bait. In this case, the preferred bait was whiting. So we were using shrimp and squid to catch whiting, and then we were cutting up the whiting and using that to catch the sharks. In this case, I think we caught a black tip, a couple other fish that I think someone said it was a sand shark, and then there was one that possibly was a bull shark. It was like a heavier set one, like bigger shoulder and whatnot than we normally see with a black tip. But all those went for whiting, and so from a pattern standpoint, working the pier, we went with the preferred weight, heavier weight, hold fast because of those conditions, and then using the preferred bait, in this case whiting. It did slow down a little bit or calm down while we were fishing that evening at the 61st Street Fishing Pier, so we were able to lighten our weight for a good 2 hours and got some pretty decent hookups there, but then it started picking up again, and so we had to go back to our heavier weights. Thanks again for joining. If you like us, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, COAF Field Team, City of Island Fishing Field Team. Additionally, do select that little bell so you get the latest notification when we post anything, some updates and whatnot. Also, we're on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Do check out some pics that we do on Instagram while we're out and about. Additionally, do check out our blog, stalkertroutfishing.com, as we do like fishing for trout and rainbow trout. We tend to put that information there, as well as just other fishing-related things that we had mentioned previously at the beginning of this video. So that said, thanks again. Come back for more, and do send us comments, questions. If you have any questions, we do some Q&A. We're prepping one, in fact. A recent question about fishing Texoma, specifically Destin Dam tail race on some striped bass fishing. And so we're getting that information out, so do check back there as well. And additionally, if you do send us a question and answer that maybe we don't have a good suggestion, tip or whatnot, we'll go and redirect it to someone who possibly can answer that question for you. So ring the bell, select the bell, get some notification, do come back with us, and thank you, good luck, and good fishing.